Captain Elias Kane pressed his back against the half-broken wall, dust and smoke swirling in the air around him. The battlefield was quiet for a moment, but that kind of quiet was never safe. It was the silence that came between artillery strikes, the hush before something worse arrived. His squad crouched nearby, each soldier waiting for the next order, their weapons ready. The ruins around them had once been part of an alien settlement. Stone towers stood broken like teeth in a shattered jaw. Streets that had once carried life were now littered with rubble and fire. Humans and aliens had been fighting for control of this place for weeks, each side claiming the other had started the war. Kane knew the truth was more complicated. He had seen enough battles to understand that wars never began for only one reason. But he was a soldier, not a politician. His duty was clear: protect his squad, follow orders, and survive. A low rumble shook the ground. One of his men pointed toward the distance. Alien war machines were moving again. Kane's heart tightened. The fight was not over. Stay sharp, he told his squad. We move after the next barrage. Keep your heads down. The words were steady, but inside he felt the same fear every soldier felt. Fear was natural, but training kept it from controlling him. The next barrage fell sooner than expected. Explosions ripped across the ruins. A wall collapsed behind them, throwing clouds of dust into the air. Kane covered his face with his arm. His ears rang and the world blurred for a moment. When the smoke cleared, he heard something strange. Crying. It was not human. The sound was high-pitched, trembling, and filled with terror. Kane froze, his instincts on edge. He followed the sound, moving carefully through the dust. At first his squad thought he was mistaken, but then they heard it too. Sir, that's one of them, a soldier muttered. Leave it, Kane didn't answer. His boots crunched over broken stone as he moved toward the sound. His squad followed reluctantly, weapons raised. In the shadow of a fallen tower, half buried under shattered beams, Kane saw the source of the cry. A small alien child, its skin pale silver, eyes glowing softly in fear. It was pinned beneath a heavy slab of stone, too young and too weak to escape. The sight made his chest tighten. The child was so small, no older than 5 by human measure. Its thin arms reached out helplessly. Orders, Captain? One soldier asked. Kane hesitated. Saving an alien was not part of the mission. These beings were the enemy. His orders were to push forward, not waste time. Yet as he stared at the child, he saw only fear, not hatred. He saw the same expression he had once seen on human children during evacuations back on Earth. Help me move this, Kane said firmly. Sir, that's an enemy. It's a child, Kane corrected. His voice was sharp, leaving no room for argument. Reluctantly, 2 of his men moved beside him. Together, they pushed the slab of stone away, muscles straining. The child cried out in fear, but Kane kept his movements gentle. When the stone shifted free, the child scrambled out, trembling. Before Kane could reassure it, another explosion struck nearby. A tower collapsed, sending more debris crashing down. Kane reacted without thinking. He threw himself over the child, his armored body shielding it from falling stones and dust. The impact slammed into his back. His breath caught, pain rushing through him. For a moment he thought the weight would crush him, but he held his position, protecting the small life beneath him. When the dust cleared, he lifted his head. The child was safe. The squad stared in disbelief. None of them had moved to help, but now they saw their captain lying over an alien child like a living shield. Captain, what have you done? One whispered. Kane slowly stood, wincing at the pain in his back. He looked at the child, then at his men. I saved a life, he said simply. The child stared up at him, its large silver eyes filled with confusion and wonder. It didn't speak, but its small hand reached out, touching the edge of his armor. The gesture was hesitant, almost thankful. Before Kane could respond, the sound of alien voices echoed nearby. A patrol was approaching. His squad tensed, ready to fight, but Kane raised his hand. We're pulling back, he ordered. What about the kid? A soldier asked. Kane looked at the child again. It clung to his leg, terrified of being left behind. His heart twisted. If they abandoned it now, the rubble or the patrol would finish what the collapse had started. He crouched down, meeting the child's gaze. Stay quiet. Stay with me. Without another word, he lifted the child into his arms. The squad was stunned, but none dared to challenge him. Kane had made his decision, and when their captain made a decision, they followed. They moved quickly through the ruins, avoiding the alien patrol. Each step felt heavier with the child in his arms, not because of weight but because of what it meant. He knew his superiors would question him. His squad already doubted him, but he could not turn back now. When they finally reached the human outpost, the soldiers at the gate stared in shock. Kane carried the child straight to the medical tent. "This one needs care," he told the medics. "Treat the wounds." "Captain, that's a child," he interrupted again. His voice was calm but firm. The medics exchanged uneasy glances but obeyed. As the child was treated, Kane sat outside the tent, exhaustion pressing on him. His squad whispered nearby, their voices carrying doubt and confusion. He heard words like traitor and fool, though no one said them directly to his face. He closed his eyes, leaning against the wall. He knew the questions that would come. Command would demand answers. Why had he risked his life for an enemy child? Why had he brought it back? But Kane also knew the truth. On the battlefield, he had not seen an enemy. He had only seen a child about to die. He had acted on instinct, the same instinct that made him a soldier, to protect life. That night, as darkness settled over the outpost, Kane heard movement. The child had slipped from the medical tent and was standing near him. Its silver eyes reflected the faint light of the campfires. Slowly, it reached out and touched his hand. Kane didn't pull away. He let the small hand rest on his own, a silent bond forming between them. He didn't know what future this choice would bring, but deep inside he felt that the moment he had thrown himself over that child, his life, and perhaps the war itself, had changed. Far away, in the alien capital, word of his action had already begun to spread. The mother of the child had heard whispers. A human soldier had shielded her offspring with his own body. And she was coming. Captain Elias Kane had barely slept that night. The camp was quiet now, but his mind raced. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the child's silver eyes wide with fear, and the way it had clung to him as if he were its only hope. His squad had finally fallen silent, though he knew whispers still traveled through the tents. Some called him reckless, others brave, but none truly understood what he had done. Kane did not care about titles or whispers. He had saved a life, and that was enough, for now. By dawn, the camp was alert. Scouts reported strange movement on the horizon. Kane's brow furrowed as he looked through his binoculars. A fleet of alien ships glided through the sky, their metallic surfaces catching the rising sun. These were not patrols. They were something more. Deliberate, a voice crackled over the radio. "Captain Kane, unidentified vessels approaching. Recommend immediate caution." Kane nodded, though the radio operator could not see him. "Understood. Keep me updated." The ships landed in the clearing outside the human camp. From them emerged a group of aliens unlike any Kane had seen before. Their armor was sleek and ceremonial, their movements precise. At the center walked a tall female, commanding presence that made even hardened soldiers step back. Her silver skin glimmered in the morning light, and her eyes, the same color as the child Kane had saved, fixed on him. Kane's chest tightened. He knew immediately who she was. Serenia, the child's mother and a high-ranking leader among her people. The alien soldiers formed a perimeter, keeping humans at bay. Kane approached slowly, hands raised slightly to show he meant no aggression. "I am Captain Elias Kane," he said, his voice steady despite the tension. "I am at your service." Serenia's gaze did not waver. "Captain Kane," she said, her voice low and melodic. "You have taken what is mine. I saved a life," Kane replied. "It was a child. It was about to die." "I could not—" "Silence," she interrupted. "You do not understand. By saving my child, you have bound yourself to our law of guardianship. You are now responsible for its protection and obedience. You will come with me or your people will be dishonored." The words hit Kane like a shockwave. Guardianship? Obedience? He had only acted out of instinct, not knowledge of alien laws. "Your law," he began cautiously. "I am human. I follow human orders. I did not know of your customs." Serenia's eyes narrowed and she stepped closer. "Ignorance does not free you. You have accepted responsibility. By touching the child, by shielding it with your body, you pledged yourself." His squad murmured behind him, some exchanging worried glances. One of the soldiers muttered under his breath, "Captain, we can't just hand him over." Kane shot him a look. "Not yet. Let me speak first," Serenia continued. "You will come to our capital. You will stay there until we deem your oath fulfilled. Your people may not interfere. And if you refuse—" Her hand rested on the hilt of her weapon, a subtle but clear threat. Kane swallowed. He did not want to leave his own people, but he could not abandon the child either, and if he refused, it could spark more violence. "Very well," Kane said finally. "I will go with you. But know this, I do not belong to you. I act for the child's safety, not to serve any one side." Serenia studied him carefully. Then after a long pause, she nodded. "Then we leave at once. Any delay may endanger the child. You will learn our ways quickly. Failure is not tolerated." The human command gathered hurriedly. They were reluctant to let Kane go, but there was nothing they could do. Interfering could provoke a full-scale attack. Reluctantly, they allowed him to leave, though tension filled every face in the camp. Kane packed only what he needed for the journey. The child, now dressed in a small protective suit provided by medics, clung to him nervously. He felt the tiny hands grasping his armor, and he whispered gently, "I've got you. We'll be safe." The alien ships were fast, cutting across the sky in ways humans could barely comprehend. Kane marveled at their technology, but there was no time for wonder. Every movement reminded him that he was now a guest in a world he did not understand. Inside the largest ship, Kane saw the child's mother again. Serenia's presence was commanding, yet she carried herself with grace. She watched them from a distance, her eyes calculating as though measuring Kane's worth with every step. "You will rest now," she said finally. "The journey is long and you must be prepared." Kane nodded, though sleep was far from his mind. He looked down at the child, who was slowly calming in his arms. It had not spoken a word, only clinging silently. "Do you understand?" Kane asked softly. The child nodded, eyes wide and trusting. Kane felt a surge of responsibility. This small life depended on him and nothing else mattered. Hours passed. The journey was smooth but tense. Kane observed the ship's interior carefully. Alien architecture was elegant, almost organic, with flowing curves and soft lighting. He realized that this was a civilization far beyond human technology. Yet the humans had survived, and now he carried the future of a fragile bridge between their two peoples. At one point, Kane asked, "Why is your child so important? Surely in war many lives are lost." Serenia's gaze met his. "This child is the heir to our people. Its life is bound to the survival of our species. By saving it, you have saved more than one life. You have altered the fate of all." Kane swallowed hard. The weight of the moment pressed on him. He had only acted to save a child, but now he saw the ripple effect of his action. Wars could change because of one moment of courage. One small act could become the seed of peace or the spark of more conflict. "Do you truly understand what you have done?" Serenia asked. "I understand I saved a life," Kane said firmly, "and I will protect it no matter what comes next." She nodded slowly, as though assessing the truth in his words. Kane realized then that she did not merely command armies. She tested character. She would see if he was worthy to carry the responsibility of guardianship. The journey continued in silence for many hours. Kane watched the stars through the ship's viewing window, marveling at the vastness of space. He thought of Earth, of his squad, and of the families waiting at home. Yet no regret clouded his heart. Saving a life had been the right choice, even if it meant stepping into an unknown world. As night fell inside the ship, the child curled up beside him, finally allowing a small sense of comfort. Kane's hand rested gently on its back. "We'll get through this," he whispered. "I promise." Serenia observed them from a distance. She did not interfere, but her presence was felt, a constant reminder that Kane's actions were being judged. She was not a vengeful mother nor a cruel leader. She was a protector of her people, and now he had become a part of her responsibility. Eventually, Kane felt exhaustion creeping in. The events of the battlefield, the weight of the child, and the long journey through space pressed on him. He allowed himself a brief rest, sitting beside the child as it slept. Silver eyes closed, breathing softly. He thought about what awaited them in the alien capital. Would his people understand? Would they forgive him for leaving? Could humans and aliens ever trust one another? The questions were many, but Kane's resolve was simple. He had acted to save a life, and he would not turn back. Not for fear, not for orders, not for politics. Humanity, he realized, was not measured by victory or conquest. It was measured by courage, compassion, and the willingness to act for others, even when the world was against you. And for this child, he would stand against anything. Far ahead, the alien capital shimmered on the horizon. Its towers rose like silver spires glowing faintly under distant stars. Kane knew that stepping into that city would test him in ways he could not yet imagine. But he also knew one thing clearly. The bond he had formed with the child was stronger than any fear or threat. He would not fail. Not now. Not ever. Captain Elias Kane had never felt so out of place in his life. The alien capital rose around him like a city carved from light itself. Towers shimmered with silver and blue hues, and bridges connected floating platforms in a way that made human engineering seem primitive. The air buzzed softly with energy, not unpleasant but strange, like the hum of a giant living machine. The child clung to his hand, small fingers gripping the edge of his armor. Kane kept a steady pace, aware of every movement around him. The streets were full of aliens, each one watching him carefully, some with curiosity, others with suspicion. Kane could feel their judgment, a constant reminder that he was now in a world he did not fully understand. At the heart of the city, Kane and the child were brought before Serenia once more. She stood on a raised platform, her presence commanding respect without a word. Her gaze held him, steady and assessing, as though she could see into his very thoughts. "You have arrived safely," Serenia said. "That is the first test of guardianship. You kept the child alive and you have reached my city. That is not an easy task, Captain Kane." "I did what anyone would do," Kane replied honestly. "I acted to protect the child. Nothing more." Serenia's lips curved slightly. "Perhaps. Yet what you did carries weight far beyond your understanding. You have crossed a line between our species. The actions of one human may now shape the future of many." Kane nodded slowly. He understood her words, though the magnitude of them was overwhelming. He had saved a life, but now that act was more than a simple choice. It had become a symbol, a bridge between worlds. The child tugged at his hand, pointing toward a small room on the side. Kane glanced down and saw its hesitation. "It's all right," he whispered softly. "I'm right here." The child nodded and followed him inside. Inside the room, Kane noticed the elegance of alien design. Furniture flowed like liquid metal. Walls glowed faintly, and the light shifted with a subtle rhythm. The child sat on a small platform, gazing at Kane with curiosity and trust. "You will stay here for now," Serenia said, her voice firm but not unkind. "You are to learn our ways, understand our laws, and prepare to act as a true guardian. There will be challenges, and you must not fail." Kane's mind raced. Learning alien laws, customs, and ways while protecting the child was a daunting task. He had always faced enemies on battlefields. But this challenge required something different: wisdom, patience, and understanding. Over the next few days, Kane was introduced to the city, its people, and its rules. The child remained close, slowly becoming more comfortable with his presence. Kane observed carefully, noting the subtle interactions among the aliens. Their society was structured, disciplined, and deeply rooted in honor and responsibility. Every action, even small gestures, carried meaning. One morning, Kane was summoned to a training hall. Serenia awaited him along with a group of her advisors. The hall was vast, its walls inscribed with symbols and patterns that Kane could not comprehend. The air hummed with energy, and he felt a strange pressure, as if the room itself tested his presence. "You will undergo tests," Serenia explained, "not of strength but of character. Guardianship requires more than courage in battle. You must prove your worth through logic, empathy, and restraint." Kane nodded. "I will do my best." The first test was simple in appearance but complex in effect. He was asked to solve a puzzle involving moving energy blocks to match a specific pattern. If he failed, the blocks would release a mild shock, not harmful but a signal of failure. Kane studied the puzzle carefully, noting the way energy flowed through the blocks. Slowly, deliberately, he moved them into place. When the last block clicked, the room's hum shifted and Serenia nodded in approval. "The mind is sharp," she said, "but guardianship requires more than intellect." The second test involved empathy. Kane was placed in a simulated scenario where he witnessed a young alien being trapped in a collapsing structure. The simulation required him to make split-second decisions to save multiple lives. Kane acted instinctively, prioritizing the most vulnerable. The scenario ended, and the simulation verified his choices. Again, Serenia observed quietly, approvingly. "You understand the value of life," she said, "but will you understand the weight of responsibility?" Before Kane could answer, the child approached, holding a small glowing object. It pointed to Kane, then to the object and back again. Kane knelt, trying to understand. The child handed it to him, a small token, a gesture of trust. Kane smiled faintly, feeling a bond deeper than words could express. Days turned into weeks. Kane studied the alien language, observed cultural practices, and trained alongside alien guardians. He found that even in this foreign world, common values, courage, compassion, and loyalty bridged the gap between species. Yet not everyone welcomed him. Some aliens whispered that a human could never truly understand their ways. They watched him closely, testing his reactions, seeking any sign of weakness. Kane realized that earning trust required more than completing tasks. It required patience, integrity, and consistent action. One evening, Kane and the child walked through the city's gardens. Bioluminescent plants cast soft light, and the air smelled faintly of flowers and ozone. The child's small hand rested in Kane's, and he felt a deep sense of responsibility. "You saved me," the child said softly in broken human words. "You, my protector." Kane's heart tightened. "I will always protect you," he said. "No matter what comes, I won't let anything happen to you." The child smiled faintly, leaning against him. Kane realized then that guardianship was not just a duty. It was a bond built on trust, courage, and understanding. Serenia appeared behind them, observing silently. Kane turned to her, uncertain. "You are learning," she said, "but the world outside this city is not forgiving. Humans may see your actions as betrayal. Others may seek to harm you. The tests are not over." "I understand," Kane replied. "I only act to protect life. That is my choice." Serenia's eyes softened slightly. "Your choice is the foundation of trust. Remember that a guardian does not act for reward or recognition. They act because it is the right thing to do." Weeks passed, and Kane grew more confident. He learned to anticipate the child's needs, to interpret alien gestures, and to navigate the complex social structures of the city. He discovered that despite differences, values like honor, courage, and compassion were universal. Yet a shadow loomed. Kane discovered intelligence reports suggesting a hidden threat beyond the war, an unknown species capable of destroying both human and alien civilizations. This knowledge weighed heavily on him. Protecting the child was no longer just about one life. It was about preparing for a challenge that could change the fate of many. One night, as Kane stood on a balcony overlooking the city, the child asleep nearby, he realized the depth of his role. He was no longer just a soldier. He was a bridge between worlds, a symbol of courage and a protector of the innocent. He thought of his squad, of Earth, and of the war. And he knew one thing with certainty. Humanity, in its best form, was measured not by conquest or strength, but by the courage to protect, to act with compassion, and to stand for life even in the face of danger. And Kane would stand no matter the cost. Captain Elias Kane had grown accustomed to the alien capital's rhythm. The city was alive with soft hums of energy, glowing walkways, and beings moving with precision and grace. Yet, despite its beauty, a quiet unease lingered. Kane could feel it in the way some of the alien guardians observed him, in the hushed whispers of citizens and in the careful glances of Serenia herself. Something was being kept from him. One morning, Kane was summoned to a council chamber deep within the central tower. The chamber was vast, its walls etched with symbols that seemed to shift in the light. Serenia stood at the head of the room, flanked by her advisors, all watching him closely. "Kane," she began, her voice steady, "it is time you learn the truth. The war you fought on our world was not what it seemed. There is a threat beyond both our peoples, one that endangers every planet in this system." Kane's brow furrowed. "A threat? You mean the human-alien conflict?" "That was real enough," Serenia shook her head. "The war you witnessed was only a symptom. The true enemy hides in the shadows. They are neither human nor fully alien, but a species that preys on both. They manipulate, strike, and vanish before a counterattack can be mounted. Their goal is not to conquer, but to weaken potential rivals until they can claim the galaxy." Kane felt the weight of her words pressing down. The battles, the destruction, the lives lost, it was all part of a larger scheme he had not even imagined. "You expect me to believe this?" Kane asked. Serenia stepped closer. "You will see proof. We have gathered intelligence over decades, observing their attacks and patterns. Our scouts have detected their vessels moving silently through uncharted space. Both our species were pawns, and now together, we must act." The child, standing beside Kane, looked up at him with wide eyes. Kane crouched, brushing a hand over its small shoulder. "It's all right," he whispered. "We'll face this together." Over the next several days, Kane was shown classified information. Holographic maps displayed unusual energy signatures in remote regions. Reports detailed attacks on other planets with both human and alien settlements left destroyed. The evidence was undeniable. The enemy was real, and their reach was far greater than either civilization had imagined. "We must form an alliance," Serenia said firmly. "But it cannot be forced. Trust must be earned, and you, Kane, are the symbol of that trust. You survived as a human among us. You saved a life, and now you must help unite our peoples to face the greater threat." Kane absorbed the information, feeling both fear and determination. He knew the alliance would not be easy. Generations of mistrust separated humans and aliens, and years of war had left deep scars. Yet he also knew that if the hidden enemy remained unchecked, both species could face extinction. "I understand," Kane said finally. "I'll do what I can." Serenia nodded, her expression unreadable. "Good. Your first task will be to convince the human command of the truth. They may resist, but you must show them the evidence. You are their bridge." The journey back to human territory was tense. Kane carried the child with him, and every moment he thought of the stakes. One wrong move could ignite renewed war or fail to unite two civilizations against a common threat. When he arrived, the human commanders greeted him with suspicion. "Captain Kane," one said, frowning, "we've heard stories. You're with the enemy now?" "I'm not with anyone," Kane replied calmly. "I'm here to prevent all of us from being destroyed. There is a hidden enemy, one that both humans and aliens must face together. The evidence is here." He presented the intelligence Serenia had provided. Holographic images floated above the table, showing alien ships, unclaimed battlefields, and energy signatures inconsistent with known technology. Commanders studied the displays, murmuring in disbelief. This is hard to believe," one said. "Are you saying the aliens and humans were being manipulated?" "Yes," Kane replied. "And if we do not act together, both sides will suffer catastrophic losses. This is bigger than our war. It is about survival." After hours of tense discussion, a decision was reached. A tentative alliance would be formed, led by Kane as the liaison between the two species. Both sides would contribute forces to uncover and confront the hidden enemy. It was a fragile agreement, held together by necessity and Kane's credibility. Back in the alien capital, Kane prepared for the next phase. The child remained close, learning quickly about the alien culture, their language, and even simple survival skills. Kane marveled at its resilience. Despite the danger and upheaval, the child's innocence and trust remained intact. One afternoon, Kane trained with alien guardians in a controlled arena. They tested his reflexes, endurance, and decision-making. Each trial was more than physical. It was designed to teach patience, understanding, and adaptability. Kane realized that the lessons he learned here would be crucial against the hidden enemy. Strength alone would not win this war. Later, Kane met with Serenia in the council chambers. She had reviewed his progress with the child, her expression thoughtful. "You are adapting well," she said, "but the hidden enemy will not allow simple preparation. They strike unpredictably. You must anticipate not only their actions, but the fear and mistrust they leave behind." "I understand," Kane replied. "I've seen what fear can do to soldiers. I'll keep my people and the child focused." Serenia nodded. "Good. Remember, the child represents more than life. It represents hope, trust, and the bond between our worlds. Protect it and you protect our alliance. Fail, and the consequences are beyond your imagining." The gravity of her words settled over Kane. He felt the weight of responsibility more than ever. The hidden enemy was not just an external threat. They were testing the courage, intelligence, and unity of both species. And Kane, a human soldier, was at the center of it all. As he left the council chamber, Kane looked at the child, who followed closely. "We have a long path ahead," he said softly. "But I promise I won't let anything happen to you." The child's small hand reached out, touching his armor. Kane felt a surge of determination. This bond, forged in battle and trust, was the anchor he needed. It reminded him that humanity, true humanity, was about protecting the innocent, standing for life and acting with courage even in impossible situations. That night, Kane reviewed the plans for the first joint mission against the hidden enemy. He studied maps, assessed troop positions, and coordinated with alien strategists. Every move was deliberate, every choice weighed. Failure was not an option. In a quiet moment, Kane looked up at the stars. The galaxy seemed vast, indifferent, yet full of possibilities. He knew that this hidden enemy could appear at any moment, striking unpredictably. But he also knew that humans and aliens, united by courage, compassion, and trust, had a chance to survive and even thrive. The child slept beside him, exhausted but safe. Kane kept watch, thinking about the battles to come. He realized that the real war was not just fought with weapons or strategy. It was fought with trust, courage, and the willingness to protect life even when the odds seemed impossible. And Kane was ready. Captain Elias Kane stood at the edge of the battlefield, the wind whipping his hair, and the silver sky above reflecting the tension that gripped both humans and aliens. He could feel it in the air, fear, doubt, and the weight of responsibility pressing down like a storm. On this day, the hidden enemy would strike, and every decision he made could determine the survival of both species. Beside him, the child he had saved so many weeks ago held his hand tightly. Its eyes, wide and trusting, looked up at him. Kane knelt, brushing a hand over its small shoulder. "Stay close," he whispered. "We face danger together, but you must trust me." The child nodded, leaning against him, silent but calm. Kane drew strength from that small gesture. In the midst of war and chaos, this bond reminded him why he had acted in the first place. Humanity was measured not by strength or weapons, but by courage, compassion, and the willingness to protect life, even in the face of overwhelming odds. The Allied forces had formed a tense line. Humans and aliens stood side by side, weapons ready, eyes trained on the horizon where the hidden enemy would appear. Soldiers whispered among themselves, uneasy about fighting together after generations of conflict. Kane knew that unity was fragile. One wrong action, one spark of mistrust could collapse the alliance before the battle even began. Serenia appeared beside him, tall and imposing yet calm. "They are coming," she said. "The enemy knows we have united. They will test us," Kane nodded. "Then we will show them what courage looks like." A sudden ripple of energy appeared on the horizon and the hidden enemy revealed itself. Ships unlike any human or alien design emerged, their dark hulls reflecting nothing, absorbing light. They moved with terrifying speed and precision, striking first at the outer flanks of the Allied forces. Explosions shook the ground and smoke filled the air. Kane raised his weapon, though he knew this battle required more than skill with arms. It required leadership, quick thinking, and trust. He shouted orders, coordinating human and alien units, directing them to cover one another. Slowly the line held. Then the enemy struck at the center where the command unit stood. Panic began to spread. Kane's heart pounded as he looked at both sides. If fear overcame them, the alliance would crumble, and the hidden enemy would win without contest. He knew what he had to do. Kane stepped forward, placing himself between the human and alien lines. "Stop!" he shouted, voice carrying over the roar of battle. "Listen to me. Stand your ground and trust each other. We are stronger together." The soldiers hesitated, eyes met across the line, human and alien alike. Kane took a deep breath. "I once saved a child from certain death. I did not think of sides or species. I acted because it was right. Today you can act the same way. Protect one another and we survive." For a moment the battlefield held its breath. Then slowly soldiers began moving in unison, aliens and humans covering each other, watching each other's backs. Kane smiled faintly. The bond he had formed with the child, the trust he had earned in the alien capital, had become the symbol everyone needed. The hidden enemy advanced again, but this time, they faced an organized, united force. Human and alien strategies intertwined, each side complementing the other. Kane moved along the line, encouraging soldiers, giving orders, and most importantly, inspiring them to believe in the alliance. The child, though small, watched from Kane's side. Its presence reminded everyone of what they were fighting for. Not power, not conquest, but life itself. Kane knew that even if they won, they could never forget the cost or the meaning of courage and compassion in war. Hours passed. The battle raged and both sides of the alliance were tested. Kane's leadership and courage became the anchor that held the forces together. The hidden enemy, powerful and ruthless, began to falter under the coordinated efforts of humans and aliens. Slowly the tide turned. Serenia fought alongside her soldiers, her movements precise and deadly. Kane noticed the respect in her eyes as she glanced at him during the chaos. He was no longer just a human among aliens. He was a symbol, a bridge between worlds. Finally, Kane saw the opportunity. The enemy's main ship, larger than any other, had advanced too close to the Allied line. If it was destroyed now, the battle could end in their favor. Kane turned to the child. "Stay close," he said, steadying his nerves. He ran toward the enemy ship, dodging energy blasts and debris, using both human ingenuity and lessons learned from the alien guardians. With careful precision, he planted a device on the ship that would disable its engines without causing catastrophic destruction, a plan to neutralize the threat without unnecessary death. The device activated, and the enemy ship stalled, drifting helplessly. Kane shouted to the Allied forces, "Now! Push forward!" Humans and aliens advanced together, striking with precision and coordination. The hidden enemy, facing a united front for the first time, was forced to retreat. Explosions lit the sky, but this time they signaled victory rather than despair. As the battlefield quieted, Kane looked around. Soldiers, human and alien, were tending to the wounded, checking on one another. Kane walked over to the child, who ran to him with a small smile. He scooped the child into his arms, holding it close. Serenia approached, her expression softening. "You have done what I did not expect, Captain Kane. You have not only protected life, but united two peoples in the face of impossible odds." Kane shook his head. "I only did what anyone should do. Life is worth protecting. That is all." She studied him for a long moment. "No, Kane. You have proven that one act of courage, one choice to protect, can change the fate of many. You are not simply a soldier. You are the embodiment of humanity's best qualities: compassion, bravery, and wisdom. You have reminded us all what it means to be worthy of life." Kane felt a deep sense of pride, not for himself, but for the people around him. Humans and aliens alike had stood together, inspired by trust, courage, and compassion. For the first time in decades, hope filled the hearts of both species. Later, Kane returned to the child's side. "Do you know what you did today?" he asked softly. The child shook its head. "You reminded everyone, humans and aliens, that life is precious and courage is stronger than fear. You are a hero." The child smiled faintly, leaning against Kane. He realized that heroism was not about glory or recognition. It was about standing for what was right, protecting the innocent and inspiring others to do the same. That evening, Kane looked out over the battlefield from a high tower. Fires still burned, but the worst was over. Humans and aliens worked side by side, repairing damage and helping the injured. Kane knew that this alliance was fragile, but it was a start that could change the course of history. Serenia stood beside him, quiet but proud. "What happens now?" Kane asked. "Now," she said, "we prepare. There will always be threats, but today, we have proven that courage, compassion, and trust can overcome even the greatest darkness. Today, humanity has shown its worth." Kane nodded, watching the stars above. He thought of Earth, of his squad, and of the child whose life had changed everything. He understood that true heroism was measured not by victories alone, but by the choices one made in the face of fear and danger. The child tugged at his hand. Kane knelt and smiled. "Come on, let's walk together. The future is ours to protect." Hand in hand, human and child walked among the survivors, a symbol of hope and unity. Kane knew that the journey ahead would be long and filled with challenges. But he also knew that humanity at its best was capable of greatness, and so, beneath the silver sky of a war-torn world, with enemies defeated and new alliances forged, Captain Elias Kane had shown the true meaning of courage, compassion, and the choice of humanity.